Hello and welcome back to the Retail Podcast. I'm joined by Senior Vice President Eric Linxweiler from TradeBeyond. I think we're set up for an interesting conversation just by a snapshot that Eric gave me of what's occupying his time right now. But Eric, for those who don't know who you are or what TradeBeyond are about, if you could just give us an overview, that'd be phenomenal.
Yeah, fantastic. Hey, Alex, thanks so much, and really appreciate the channel and the opportunity to chat with you today and tell the folks, kind of what we do here at TradeBeyond. So, we are a global organization, and I manage the team around the globe, from North America to Europe to our headquarters in Hong Kong and throughout Greater Asia. We're in the business of helping Tier 1 retailers and brands to streamline their processes, manage their extended retail supply chain as it pertains to private label product development, sourcing, costing, compliance, quality to the container. Our customers enjoy our platform in that it reduces time to market, creates efficiencies, and allows them to have greater visibility in their overall day-to-day operations.
Wow, that's a pretty impressive list of activities. You obviously must spend a lot of time, number one, traveling the world, and number two, meeting executives at these tier one retailers. Given the diverse set of operating environments across the world, what's keeping people awake right now? What's the number one thing people want to talk to you about when you're meeting execs?
Well, yeah, in our world, we've gone into a time of high regulation through legislation as it relates to the retail supply chain in particular. The execs that I speak with, around global sourcing, supply chain management, around governance, finance, and compliance are deeply concerned about making sure that they are doing the right things to not impede the delivery of their shipments of direct import. And to do that, they are grappling with how to create digital chains of custody to document the flow of their merchandise from early stage raw material development through finished goods. This is a topic that we talk about every single day. Of course, the cost of shipping, cost of moving goods is top of mind, creating new opportunities for source, exploring opportunities to move into new geographies. And what that does to the business is the infrastructure available, are the people trained up and able to enter into a new market or a new geography to help bolster their sourcing strength. That's a lot. Those are 4 or 5 topics jammed in there, but those are the kind of things we hear about every day.
What's in terms of, if you were going to break that down into the various categories of, stuff that's going to impact the product arriving, stuff that's going to impact the product being produced, and the whole traceability. And then you've got sort of sustainability that sort of covers all the areas. I mean, sustainability is a really interesting one, especially like in a cost of living crisis, when consumers were given the choice, do you want cheaper products or do you want more sustainable products? I think there's a very sort of mixed response there. I'm just curious how retailers see that problem, because is the legislation, especially in Europe, going towards more regulation and more sustainable, understanding where your raw materials coming from, having product passports for products.
Yeah.
What's your view?
Yeah, Alex, I talked about this with others in that sit in chairs like yours, as well as our clients and other folks in the ecosystem that I work with. And the way I see it, maybe I'm a bit of an optimist, but this whole topic of sustainability, it's not new. Okay. We've been talking about this for a while. And some of the better companies, or I should say the leading companies, not better, leading, have been, exploring opportunities of becoming a more responsible sourcing organization, a more sustainable organization as it comes to material consumption, waste, circularity, etc. So those conversations have been going on. What's new is that folks are now forced to do something about it, right? What becomes law becomes, and what becomes measurable, now becomes action. And I see that as a good thing, frankly. And it's taking the leaders and it's putting their thoughts into actions, and it's helping. What I see that from the optimistic perspective is the leaders are dragging some of the laggards into the conversation and into the action plans with them. I see, we operate in a global shareable world, a global shareable economy, we share rides with each other. We share seating at the table and at restaurants together, and everything is becoming more community driven. Yeah. I see this particularly in the apparel space. The leaders in the apparel space in particular are helping each other to partner with their common supply chain suppliers and developers, and mutually helping each other to realize goals and targets around sustainability. So I think the future is challenging but bright. I think the road to brightness is going to be bumpy, but I think the future is bright.
Do you find, how do you manage the different cultures, specifically in Europe or in Asia, where it is higher on the menu compared to North America or the United States? Is sustainability, from your experience, as much of an issue in the US or not? I don't know. It's a question rather than a statement.
Yeah. I believe in the U.S. and North America in general, we're certainly catching up to Europe. Europe seems to act faster and with more depth and more diligence around these topics than we do in North America, for sure. But the North American consumer is driving the market. It's driving the turn as well as the legislation. And I believe we're seeing, certainly a closer to the middle, a closer to the evening, or the leveling, I should say, of all regions around this topic.
And do you see, in terms of the category of product or retailer, grocer? I remember reading a fantastic transparency in supply chain use case for, I think it was LVMH. They, 3-4 years ago, they wanted to, on one line of products, bring that traceability to life. Do you see a certain category having more focus on by retailers, or it's across all categories right now?
I believe, which is not uncommon in our business, certainly around digitalization, that apparel, footwear, wearable apparel, footwear, and accessories are leading the charge. I remember I'm 100% retail, so I'm a bit biased, but I work across all product assortment or merchandise mix retailers, hypermarkets, DIY, specialty, department store, you name it. But clearly, with the amount of consumption that we see in apparel, obviously food outstripes it, of course, but with the amount of consumption as it relates to material usage, apparel, footwear outrace everybody at this point. That's where the movers are.
Yeah. Well, and what are the sort of quick wins retailers can do in this space, apart from obviously picking up the phone and speaking to you guys? But what's like when they come to you again and you're having these conversations, how are they, what's the outcome that ultimately they're trying to get to that you will help them with, or the major one that you focus on?
Yeah, what I try to do is strip people down to the basics. Most folks come to us with a very long wish list, and they want it all, and they want it all tomorrow.
Yeah.
And they don't have the foundation in place. They don't have the building blocks in place. The building blocks of your supply chain is just that: your supply chain partners, your ecosystem, your supply chain community.
Yeah.
And what we do is we emphasize the importance of identifying to the third, fourth, and fifth tier every member of your supply chain, and actually getting it into a visualization map that allows you to see the inter and intra dependencies of all those members, and then begin your segmentation of that map into certain like types, certain performers and non-performers, certain folks that can impact your goals in certain areas at a significant level. So where is my biggest opportunity for scope 3 reduction if I have a supply chain made up of 15 to 2,000 active supply chain partners? It's not in all of them, but until I get them all mapped and can turn backwards to the top 100, I don't really know where to start. So gaining visibility into your true supply chain community and that community of partnerships is job one. And it's very low-hanging fruit, by the way. It is a place where we can, to your point, Alex, you asked, where's the quick win? I mean, it is a quick win. It seems elementary, but you'd be shocked at how many folks are trying to do this manually, on paper, in Excel, and just can't keep up with it, right? And so these are the tools we bring to market that we help make that, I won't say make it more simple. I don't like that word because everything is work, but make it possible. And that's where I like to emphasize.
Has anyone, or again, because I'm definitely not a supply chain expert, but in terms of the single modality of a lot of supply chains not having redundancy built into geographies where there may be tension somewhere in the middle, and therefore they have to then diversify to another region or country. Again, is that something people are like going to bimodal supply chain models in terms of, I've got something in Asia or China and I need to get something in I don't know, Brazil or something in case something happens. Is that the level of depth people are thinking about, or is that just theory? Like
No, they are absolutely at that level of depth of thinking and of conversation and of modeling and of seeking outside counsel and outside support and outside advisorship on how to make that happen. That being said, I don't see a ton of execution from that perspective, from using your words, bimodal. Now, what I do see that is being executed is the elimination, of redundancy on a single modal perspective, as an example, and from a systems management perspective. I do see most organizations moving forward with digital transformation projects to get their entire organization on a single backbone, whereby they can be communicating more effectively. Everybody's hearing the same, everybody's on the same channel, everybody's getting the same message, everybody's understanding exactly where they are in time and motion and in critical path and in milestone, because they're all on a single sheet. That is happening. And that's what we do. And that is absolutely happening in the biggest organizations in the world.
Got you. How does that compare? So where does it, again, theoretically, I read a lot about, how retailers are optimizing their supply chains to finish at the customer, not at the point of entry at some port in country. And again, I have, because people don't really talk about this sort of transparency. How much of that do you see from your experience in terms of, have you seen good examples of supply chains finishing with the customer, as in, end to end visibility on that?
What's interesting about that is you do hear a lot of people talking about it. And the success stories I see are with the smaller organizations that do a better job figuring out the last mile than the large organizations. If you are $150 billion top line, $50 billion US top line retailer.
Yeah.
The volumes you are working with make it challenging to have the supply chain end at the consumer, right? At least from finished good to delivery. So we don't see it as much there, but in the mid-tier, we're seeing more and more of that, and they're getting better at it.
I mean, I was in Shanghai in a couple of weeks, 3 weeks ago, doing a bit of a recce safari with some retailers. And I was really impressed with their sort of sustainability, how they're trying to drive sustainability through their different supply chains and operations. But again, it's a big, there's a big diversity in terms of people who are nailing it and people who are still, doing things the old way. You mentioned earlier in terms of the quick wins. What's the one thing that's surprised you when you speak to retailers? Is there any themes that you're like, things that you thought people had already done or are doing and they're not doing? Is there anything that's really surprised you when you're having these conversations that you can share?
Well, I'll tell you, I take it back to the dinner conversation. You go to dinner with your wife and you sit down, you're having dinner with a couple you don't really know very well. Maybe it's her girlfriend and you're meeting the husband for the first time, right?
Yeah.
And you get into the conversation. So what do you do? And I start to explain, well, I help retailers that are developing private label and this and that. And then they kind of drill in a little bit and they go, well, gosh, if they're already creating, if 50% of their assortment is already private label and they're managing all of that on their own, I mean, it seems like they've got it pretty figured out. What else can you possibly do? And I said, well, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised to walk into a $100 billion retailer and see how much they do on sticky notes, on email, on WeChat, and WhatsApp. And this hand's not talking to the other hand. And yet they're managing this massive business. I mean, gigantic business. And yet they're doing it from a state of pencil and pad. That's the biggest thing that I see. And then on top of that, once you see it, it's the inability for so many organizations to make a decision and get started on an optimization and a transformation program. They are just hypnotized and paralyzed in their ability to move forward quickly. That's the biggest surprise I see. It's a bit frustrating to me, actually, because I see so much opportunity and so many dragging feet. And every year you'll get the Gartner report, and here's what we're going to do, and here's how much money we're going to spend, and here's the projects that are top of mind, and these are the things that we're budgeting for. And the numbers at the beginning of the year never seem to match up to the numbers at the end of the year.
Got you. Yeah, I mean, look, the allure of private label is, from a return on investment is fantastic, and that's why I understand it. Coming towards the end of our chat, two sort of areas that I'd like to focus on, and I'll let you decide in which way you'd like to answer them. Circular and sustainability, and how practical ways you can help retailers, or what retailers should be thinking about, is one question specifically around circular and sustainability. And then the second one, when you look to the future and you look at, again, not looking into the looking glass, but what you think is going to be on people's agendas going forward. Is it going to be more regulation? Are there other things that you see on the horizon? Two questions.
Yeah, both of them pretty beefy. The circularity conversation is an interesting one, and certainly one that I embrace. I'm not an expert in circularity, but we're getting more and more into these conversations. One place where people are using the tools at TradeBeyond to assist them here, and other tools, not just ours, of course. we're beginning to do a better job incorporating the end life of a product and the voice of the customer utilizing the product, playing back into the early stage development of the next generation of a collection or of a product. So what do I mean by that? So if you are if you're, let's stick with apparel. I mentioned that earlier. If you're an apparel retailer and you're creating a new material, let's say a new material blend that hasn't been in market before, proprietary material blend, and you're building that now. It's taking you 18 months to get it to a roll, and now we're in production and we're producing product, and that product is in the market. In the past, when that product has been returned for a quality issue, a performance issue, etc., we never get that information back to the front, back to the early stage product development cycle, so that we can improve upon it. We just sort of forget about it, we throw it away, and we leave it to the past, and we just start working on a new product. We're seeing a much better job now through tools available. AI is helping out a little bit here. We're able to deliver and anticipate some of the reaction from the market. And we're pushing that reaction into the early stages of product development for the next generation of goods. That's happening. It's slow. Yeah. It's got a ways to go. But that's what I would say, about circularity. I'm very bullish on it. I really believe, again, it's my optimistic side. I really believe as a human race in general, you only hear the bad news. You don't hear a lot of the good, but we're beginning as a global society to understand the importance of that and understand the importance of taking care of things longer term. As for the future, I do believe that we are going to see more people jumping on the artificial intelligence, machine learning, AI bandwagon. Right now, the use cases in practicality, frankly, are limited. Right. In our business, in our world, particularly around the area of supply chain. But we're working hard at it. Other folks in our business are working hard at it. And we're beginning to at least get a vision towards, what does 12 months out look like for tools that we can deliver to our customers that would be meaningful and help them. Automating the onboarding, the vetting, and the actual activation of new sourcing agents, new sourcing supply chain partners is a key. Being able to anticipate the performance of a particular product in market, in different climate, in different use patterns, that's coming, and it's helping our designers that are on our platform in the early stage. Being able to do cost optimization using AI is something on the sourcing side of the business that we're seeing start to bubble up to the top that you really can't do with a lot of manual activity. I mean, you can, but obviously we speed up the process with AI. The whole topic of traceability of labor, traceability of slave labor, of illegal, underage, socially challenged labor. This is a huge opportunity for AI, one that we've already employed and we do have in action. So I think that's where the future is. Lots of opportunity there. We're not there yet. People want to rush it. People are trying to rush it. It's not there, but the practical use cases are starting to come out.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Eric. A side note, will you be at any of the conferences in the final sort of quarter of the year? Is TradeBeyond expoing?
We do. We actually find a lot of opportunity in some of the smaller or some of the nonprofit events. We do a lot of work, for example, with the American Apparel Footwear Association, AAFA. Of course, we attend some of the larger retail events.
NRF, right? I think you guys had a big presence at NRF this year.
Certainly NRF on an annual basis in New York, Shop Talk, these larger events. We do, one of our most successful events, not to plug, but we have an event that we run in Hong Kong every November called Global Sourcing Day.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We sponsor and produce this event ourselves, 100% full full day. And, we're in the heart of global sourcing for consumer packaged goods and products and merchandise there in Hong Kong. And so we have leaders, managing directors, supply chain leaders from all over greater Asia and several from Europe, actually, that come in for that day. So people can see that on our website, actually, at TradeBeyond.com.
What's the outcome of the event? So is it like people talking about various elements of supply chain? Is it some workshops or a bit of everything?
Yeah. It's we primarily bring in experts in the space of supply chain optimization. We bring in experts around topics of environmental, social governance and compliance. We bring in logistics experts, run panels, offline workshops as well, and of course give folks exposure to a lot of digital tools and platforms that we either connect to or that we develop ourselves.
That's fantastic. What's the event called? Sorry.
Yeah, Global Sourcing Day.
Global Sourcing. I was just gonna. I'll put the link in the show notes. Eric, thank you so much for giving up your morning. It was really a great pleasure, and hopefully maybe see you at NRF in January.
All right, fantastic, Alex. Look forward to it. Thanks for the opportunity.